Ulwanda Kashishi is on KNR. Good morning, Somatriz.
Molweni sisiloza kunjani?
I'm blessed, thank you. How are you? Are you good?
Khona nami. I'm
Ngaphandle
good.
nje.
I'm good.
Ndiyakwazi ke ungumntu waloo nto awusoze during the people undenzele loo nto uzandiyeka ndinjalo. Unlike me, you know me very well.
Andikuwe.
Awuthi
Andikuwe.
ungazami uba ndim, please yeke nje phaa netso because wow kuyagoweka but kakho nto. Sibulisa abaphulaphuli beKids Ngesi Radio.
Yeah, good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our streamers. Good morning to everyone on Facebook.
Siyabulisa.
Namhlanje sizawuthetha about medical aid schemes.
Okay.
Essentially, sisiloza, we just want to focus on abantu who want to know, but how is it that I pay medical aid? But then the medical aid, when it comes to the time where it must pay, it doesn't pay. I find that now I have to pay out of pocket. So, kuzobe kusenzeka ntoni na? So we are just going to generalize and summarize around that, but we are not going to look at per scheme and per benefit, njalo njalo. Okay.
Okay. All right. Mhlawumbi masiqale ngohlobo ikhona into abantu abangekho sure about medical aid, medical insurance, blah blah blah. Mhlawumbi masiqala apha yintoni i-medical aid?
Okay. Ndiyayithanda eligama litshintshileyo lithi medical insurance because ibenza abantu understand that it is just that you are insuring yourself, but xana ndinoze ndigule, I can claim from a fund that is going to pay. So you have something called a pension fund where you're saying, when I don't have a job, this thing will pay, you know. You have a car insurance, insurance for your phone that says, if it happens that your phone breaks or gets stolen, we will pay to recover that phone. So that's what essentially it is, that in the event where I need to cover a medical expense, that expense could be a doctor consultation, a consultation for a physiotherapist, it could be for medication, anything and everything that relates to my health, you know. So it could be over-the-counter medication, it could be prescription medication, jalo njalo. Crutches, a wheelchair, you know, jalo, anything and everything that relates to my health. I would like for this insurance to cover me.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Zithini ke i-options nayo yonke loo nto leyo umntu anokhe akhethe phakathi kwazo?
Sure. So you can imagine, well, health is quite a pricey thing. It's quite expensive. With cars, umntu will pay less insurance depending on how expensive that car is. But how do you price medical insurance? Because then you are not going to say Ulwanda is worth 2 million, Lhoza is worth 100,000. You know.
Yeah.
So how do you, as a scheme, as a medical aid scheme, how do you put out plans that are out there that people will be able to take, right? And so they have to come up with the rules and say, okay, we will give you a benefit. So we'll give you this, but if benefits zakho will be limited, right? If you want to pay money, and if you want a lot more benefits, then you would have to pay a lot more money. What I want to say around this, Lhoza, is that there are something called closed schemes and there's something called open schemes. But maybe before I go into that, I want to let everyone know that medical aid is expensive. So only about 20% of the population is on medical aid in South Africa.
Sure.
19 or 20%. So of those people, so we are looking at about 11,000 people, 11 million people that are on medical aid in the country. Kula 11 million, 3.5 million are actually principal members, meaning if the Ibega language, 3.5 million people are the ones in South Africa that are paying medical aid. So the other 7.2 million are beneficiaries of that 3.5 million.
Okay.
Yes. So we have 11 million people on medical aid, but only 3.5 million are actually paying the medical aid. The other ones are beneficiaries of those. A beneficiary could be a spouse, it could be umakhulu, it could be umchana, umdana, yes.
Okay.
So we go to closed schemes and open schemes.
Yes.
Closed schemes, if you are a government employee, there's a scheme that you can take, you can be a part of because you're a government employee. No one else can join that scheme. If you are in the police force, there's a scheme if you work for the bank, there's something called bankment. It's medical aid for people who work for the bank, Jalo njalo. So there are schemes that you can only join because you work for that company. Then there are open schemes, and these schemes are available for everyone. They're available for the people who work at the bank, the people in the government, the people in the police force, and basically everyone else. All these different schemes in the country, I think there are about 72 in total, somewhere there, I'm not sure now. They within them have different plans. So you can be on the scheme and then you are on plan 1, plan 2, plan 3, plan 4, plan 5, right? And those are just the pricing will differ and the benefits will differ. Yeah.
Okay.
So we won't what we want to say is of the scheme that you are in and in the plan you are in, it is possible that then you might go and see a doctor, a specialist, a pharmacist, an optometrist or other. And when you get there, the medical aid does not cover. And we want to talk about why does that happen.
Why?
So the first reason will be that you are most likely not collecting from your designated service provider. So medical schemes have something called a designated service provider, meaning if you belong to the scheme or if you are in the scheme and in a particular plan, okay, so we could all be on the same scheme, but we are not on the same plan. My plan allows me and your plan does not allow, but it is the same scheme. So igama lesi scheme ngulwanda, and within that scheme there are different plans. You have a Mkhatshane plan yakwalwanda, you have a Lhoza plan yakwalwanda, right? So omnye umuntu uzathi ungazuyithathe la medical aid yakwalwanda wrong. No, it's not that simple. It depends on which plan you are on.
Plan okuyo. Okay.
Sure. But generally medical aids have designated service providers. Designated service provider meaning that you can only go to this pharmacy, you can only go to this doctor, you can only go to this hospital. If it happens that
closed ones.
No, all the medical aids have a designated service provider, all of them, for certain services. So if the designated service provider could be for amayeza, it could be for ISBEX, it really depends on law that you are claiming at that time. So maybe they are not too strict on doctors, but they are strict on dentists. Maybe they are not strict on medicine, but they're strict on hospitals, where they will say, you can only go to hospitals along the coast. So if something happens and you are in Gauteng, it's inland, and you go to a hospital, then they say, no, you were supposed to go to a hospital along the coast. Okay. And sometimes it means that the person has run out of benefits, So there's traditional schemes, they put money for dentistry, money for optometry, money, the money is separate. So it could happen that imali yakho ka-dentist iphele wena uye ku-dentist and ucimba wena usenemali, but then you only have money now for the doctor, right? So when you see your statement, you see a positive, but then it's not for that particular service that you want to claim for at that time, okay? Abanye abantu have something called a medical savings account. It means that of the premium I ayibhatalayo on the medical aid saves money and puts it aside. That money is used to pay for everything. If it's amazinyo, it pays out of that medical savings account. Spectacles, it pays out of that. Medicine, doctor consultation, physiotherapist, it pays out of that.
Savings.
But la mali bancinci, sometimes I think it's usually around 6,000, 7,000 or so. So if when
Khale
these
ziphele.
bags,
Yo,
when these bags
guncu
ukhomba
kaloku.
yo 6,000 rand
Guncu.
gone, and then I had a patient. It's still February, and she comes to the pharmacy to want to get medicine, and I tell her you don't have funds. It's like, Aibo, how come? It's just the
Njani
start of the year.
ngoFebruary? Ewe.
Yeah. So it has nothing to do with whether it's January, February, and whatever. It has everything to do with how are you handling the money that is inside that savings account. So if you do something that will finish that money, then sorry,
Izawuphela.
to kill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we want to talk about into a medical scheme formulary. So medical schemes have a formulary where they decide that on this plan, you can only get lamayeza. So when it comes to ukhohlela, these are the medicines we pay for.
Sure.
When it comes to flu, these are the medicines we pay for. So the formulary is a list that says this is the disease condition and these are the medicines we are going to use. If umuntu is diabetic, according to us in this scheme, because this scheme has doctors, it has pharmacists, it has professors that work for that scheme, and they will decide, okay, instead of you paying 3,000 rand a month on medical aid, you'll pay 1.5. But now if formulary is our ncipha. We have a problem, guesses Lhoza, of people who want to pay less on medical aid, but want maximum benefits. It doesn't work like that. So if you are going to want 100 rand cough medication, whereas there's a 20 rand cough medication, then you must pay for the expensive scheme. Can't want to pay for the cheaper scheme. And when you get to the pharmacy, you want high-end products. You don't want generics and that sort. It doesn't work like that. The scheme is cheaper so that it will allow you to access the cheaper products that are out there in the market.
Okay.
So if a product is not part of that formula, yes, you are diabetic. Yes, you have high blood pressure. But on this plan, this is how we treat high blood pressure. We treat it using these medicines. So your doctor must first try these ones. And if he can prove that they don't work, you can then move to another one. Okay. And this is where the thing comes in.
wena nto siyaziyo.
Ugqirha wam is saying I must be on this one. Okay, so you must know that the medical aid also has their own doctors and so forth, and that will become a discussion between the doctor and the medical aid. So that is what we call an exclusion. The item you have been prescribed or the item oifunayo is an exclusion on that medical aid because it is not on their formulary. Yo lwana ndiveza pilisi kuthethwa ngazo eradioweni khawundiphathele wethu apha kule medical aid yam. No, your medical aid does not pay for homeopathic products. They are an exclusion on your medical aid. It doesn't mean awunamali, imali unayo, but they are not part. Yeah, they're an exclusion. Then there's something called a levy, where a medicine in the formula will have a price attached to it. Umzekelo, we have a molecule, a paracetamol, but then that paracetamol exists as many different products. Some are 50 rand, some are 10 rand. Now the difference, the medical aid will say, if there's a 10 rand one, that's the one we will pay for. If Lamd wants the 50 rand one, uzawubhatalela 40 rand difference. And that's what we call a levy, guesses laws. It means that unamachamba. Because earlier the generic works just the same, but then Lomdu wants the original or the brand product.
Kaloku sisakhuliswa ngolo hlobo ube brand loyal ufuna elaa gama uba likho ayiyo.
Yeah, so that becomes the levy and you have to pay. And another one is called the copayment. The medical aid could have a deal that says every time ezawubelega, there will be a copayment. We don't cover delivery yomntana at 100%. We only cover it at 66%, and the member must pay the balance. So that's called a co-payment. So masincedisane. Kukhona izinto medical aid encedisana ne-member to pay.
Okay.
In the rules, ezinye izinto will need a co-pay. Uzawubhatala part, now uzawubhatala part. We don't cover it at 100%. Umuntu ono
percentage
NSFAS,
ethile.
umuntu ono NSFAS esikolweni uyayazi into yobana i-tuition u-NSFAS will say we will cover you at 70%. Sayibhatala i-tuition yakho unayo u-NSFAS, but we will only pay 70%. And when I am, we have to come with the 30%. So zikhona into ezinjalo phaa ku-medical aid when you read the fine print. But this one we pay only at a certain percentage. And then maybe the last thing I want to talk about is prescribed minimum benefits, or PMBs. Urhulumente uthe kwi-medical schemes, you have all these schemes, but what is the point of someone being on a cheap scheme that won't then cover anything? Right? Because then it means you guys are just making money. You're collecting money from people, and when they have to claim, then you won't pay for them. So kwathiwa makwenziwe into kuthiwa zii-prescribed minimum benefits. Any medical aid scheme, no matter how cheap, must cover a minimum of benefits, and this is prescribed by law. Okay. Wonke umntu, so most chronic conditions are there. So if you have high blood pressure, you have cholesterol, you have diabetes, a stroke, njalo. We will say that these medicines or those benefits must be covered. Umntu oyobeleka, umzekelo, we made an example. It should be part of those prescribed minimum benefits. I think there's about the list of prescribed minimum benefits. It shows that the people receive the minimum health services required. So these are medical emergencies. Umntu ubehamba nge-ambulance, the medical aid should cover that. You were shot, ubuhlatyiwe. There are about 270 serious medical conditions as part of those PMBs, and there are 25 chronic conditions, including asthma, diabetes, hypertension, and epilepsy. So ungavumi if your scheme is saying that they won't cover certain things, because they are actually part of those PMBs, and bayanyanzeleka uba mabazibhatalele.
Abazenze. Okay. All right. So kodwa into ebalulekileyo endiphuma nayo into yobana please check the fine print, read the fine print, nakweyiphi into oyisayinayo oyithathayo, even if it's medical aid, make sure that you read the fine print, because uzaba surprised xa besithi siyenzi uthi usithi njani ukuthi wawuyisayinele nje so yeah. I think mawasanele namhlanje siyapha kudoctor no siyapha kumfundisi uAbel Sihlongonyane. Somachiza, siyabulela man, kuhle.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So.
Until next Wednesday. Zawuqina. Subandim, sizambandim. All right, Lwanda Kamkhatshane, registered pharmacist and resident pharmacist at Kid Gesi Radio. Until next time, Somachiza. Have a blessed day.
Thank you. Cheers.
You.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Usomachiza Lwanda Kamkhatshane ngoku sizamkhupha ngengoma, and we welcome Pastor Abel Dumisani Sihlongonyane wase Sunrise City Church and now Sprayed uzakhe asinike the midweek sermon. For now mandimkhawulele ngengoma kwenza umfundisi ke lokwamkelwa ngeculo funeka kubekho ingoma eyamkela ke umfundisi lo siza kumamkela mhlawumbe ke fikile mlomo esitayinyweba abanayo. How fortunate are they? Good morning.